Right, welcome back to our coffee chat, and I've got my green shake today. So, Bryce, if halfway through I end up with a green moustache, please tell me.
I
Okay.
will. I have
Um,
water.
but welcome everyone. And today I'm so looking forward to this conversation. It's one I think that's really needed, and we're going to be looking at escaping the fear machine and how can we opt out of it. And Bryce, there's so many areas which I think link into a video that you posted yesterday on your channel, but we really wanted to dive deep into this because so many of us are feeling something's off. We keep talking about fear and division and the speed of change, and whether it's tech, whether it's AI, whether it's politics, whatever it is. And a lot of us can know a lot of these tools and techniques, but aren't necessarily integrating them. So we thought this would be a great subject today. Um, how are you doing, and how are you seeing this play out at the moment?
It's so crazy. I was just telling you off camera. I feel like this is divine, because this has kind of been a subject of conversation, kind of a nuanced subject that I have been speaking about kind of on my channel with the whole soul smashing thing. And also, it's playing out in my own personal life with the Ashtanga community. I had Mariella Cruz, a colleague of mine, on yesterday because our teacher passed away a few months ago, and we're seeing this like total divide with people who obviously haven't integrated anything. And so this fear, I think when we bring fear into the mix, it really comes down to finding your sense of self. I think that kind of takes that, does that make like takes that
Mm.
power of fear away when you're not self-identified, as the Cassiopeans say, with the idea, and you're able to like entertain an idea without accepting it, as Aristotle said, but actually still rely on your sense of self. And I kind of want to, when you sent me the idea for this, I was like, God, this is so in par with what the Cassiopeans were saying. And we've also seen it within the truther community and within like the spiritual community, because Catherine, you and I are both in the spiritual world too, but different
Mm.
corners of the spiritual world. And regardless of whether you're an animal communicator or a Reiki practitioner or a yoga practitioner, at the end of the day, the crux of what you're doing is kind of the same. You
Very much so. Oh, it should be.
it
Yeah.
should be. It should be.
Yeah.
And you especially in like the yoga world, like we have all these people who learn the practice, who can do these super beautiful advanced practices. They can spout the philosophy, they can learn the chant the Sanskrit, but then something will come up where it's very evident that they have not integrated anything. And it shows in behaviors when there is fear or projection being seen versus those who are actually able to settle into their sense of self. You know what's crazy, Catherine, too? Because you just never know who these people are going to be. Now, you and I have been on this YouTube road for what feels like 50 years. It's
Yeah.
probably more like five, but I think I've lived multiple lives since I've opened up my channel. And we just, and for us, for me specifically, not a lot of people in the Ashtanga world even know. So a lot of these people I know globally don't even know I have a YouTube channel. They just know
Yes.
me as an Ashtanga practitioner. A
Me
lot of
too.
my, I just never, and of course, a lot of our subscribers know our worlds have crossed. We're introducing our, but when my teacher passed away, he was 53. He had a heart attack, and it was because of this. We know that. And I posted something on like my private, my actual yoga account. I was like, RIP, I think we know why this happened. I got messages from people in the Ashtanga world that were like, oh my God, I'm so shocked that you were the one that actually said something. And here I'm thinking like, well, I got a YouTube channel where I've
Yeah.
been saying shit for 5 years. So I don't, but then I forget that they don't know that I have this other side of my life. And so I think what happens, and now with my situation with the Ashtanga world, as Marielle and I were speaking, I'm not a famous, there are famous Ashtanga teachers. I'm not a famous one. This is a small world, but I'm not a famous one. But here we are kind of coming together, causing these waves, saying what's happening isn't right. And I think people are actually, so to make a long story short, sometimes we don't even know who has actually integrated this work to find the sense of self, to kind of look the fear in the face until you're forced to stare down the barrel of a pew pew, does
Yeah.
that make
Completely. And I think we see that in everyone. We see it with we saw it big time in 2020 with a lot of the spiritual teachers that all of us might have been following for years. And we were all blown away with, well, some people might have seen it coming, but quite a few of them, a lot of us didn't see coming. with how many people succumb to the fear narrative, and we're actually sacking staff and not going ahead with this
Yeah.
and things. And in the natural health, my sort of spiritual side of the community, in the natural health, in the animal world, the interspecies communication world, covers a wide area. Again, I was actually blown away by how many holistic therapists obviously didn't trust the teachings that they've been teaching for 20 years, because they were rushing straight down the
Yes.
medical intervention rate. And please, everyone, this isn't about blame, because we're all going to have instances in our lives where we realize, but if we can't see it ourselves, that should be a big mirror up to ourselves to say, I've slipped into fear, I've forgotten my teachings, there's obviously bits about my teaching that I haven't integrated, or that I don't believe in, or I don't agree with anymore. So having this sort of self-awareness is absolutely key. And I have to laugh, the naughty side of me really laughs when I see some of our colleagues on big platforms and things who have been teaching this work for years, and their behavior can just switch so clearly into clearly showing there's no integration. And for those people watching, I've had so many people reach out to me, and I completely get it, because your spiritual journey is never linear. It's a rocky road, up, down, down the waterfall, into the whirlpool, back up again, And I think this having ways to recognize when we're in that fear state, recognize when we're being deliberately manipulated to be in that fear state, recognizing when we're not putting all of it, everyone watching. I think, you and I have such amazingly well-informed audiences. We learn as much from them as they do from us, but all of us can be guilty of understanding something but not integrating and not doing it.
Yeah, and I think too, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about my own experiences in the Ashtanga world, and what you're saying about like noticing when like the mask slips and people that we think are so solid in their morals and what they've learned, but then all of a sudden they're the first to fold. And I
Mm,
think what happens, like I'm thinking about my Ashtanga community, and Ashtanga is a very specific corner of yoga. It's a lineage base. It's one of the hardest. It's the punk rock of yoga because it's so freaking hard and it's just intense physically. So you get a lot of people. It's also heavy philosophy. So what happens in the Ashtanga world for I'll say foreigners, for people who aren't Indian, as we're classified when we're all kind of lumped together, is that you have a lot of people in the Ashtanga world that come from usually pretty affluent families. They have a long line of education. You have a lot of people who are Ashtanga teachers who have their PhDs, who have their masters, because it's so heavy philosophy. It's going to take an academic to really embrace this teaching. But we're looking at people who have led very cushy lives.
mm,
To be able to take 3 months out of your year to fuck off to India
mm.
and leave your life on pause, not everyone can do that. And so
No, that's a real luxury.
you're looking at a specific breed of people from all over the world, regardless of what country they come from, whether we have a lot of people from England there, from America, Canada, Latin America, and South America is interesting because the Ashtanga teachers absolutely come from very affluent families that you see in Ashtanga from Central and South America, all over Europe, Asia. And so you have people that, even though we're all from these different countries and we all collaborate together in Mysore, India, we're all coming from very, very similar backgrounds in the sense that we had a lifestyle that we were born into that literally afforded us this opportunity to do. That was our karma. And on top of that, again, not just financially, but you're looking at people who come from a long line of families that value education. Like I didn't know growing up until I was like about to go to university. I didn't know for a very long time that university was an option. I thought that it was against the law. Like in America, I thought like you had to go. And then
Mm.
when I figured it out that it was optional, my parents said, well, it's against the law for you. You have to go. So that's you're getting that. So we're looking at people who have, even though the practice is hard, and even though we go through hard stuff in life, there's always been security for people.
Yeah.
And so they've never really had to face off against something that could take everything from them.
Mm-hmm.
And when 2020 hit, that's when you first saw the great divide in the Ashtanga world between those that could hack it. Like myself, my friend Jorn in Norway, there was a few of us that said, Absolutely not. Now this is when our practice really we have to be very solid because right now they are trying to take everything from us because our shalas were not essential, which
Mm.
I think any business, if it's making money for you, that's essential because that's paying for your food. So we had to make some really hard. Mariella Cruz in my interview, she talked about the Bhagavad Gita that yoga is asking us to take action. It's always asking us to take action. And so in that moment, oh, and even though I'm talking from the yoga perspective, everybody watching right now, I think you understand what I'm saying. In that moment where we had no choice but to take action one way or another, either go with the fear or stand up and sit back and rest in ourselves and say, yeah, something's not right. And so I'm not going to participate in this fear.
Yeah.
And see some of our colleagues that just absolutely capitulated. And it's like everything that they had been practicing for 20, 30 years on a daily basis just went right out the window because all of a sudden the security was gone. And so it really showed us who had integrated because even for us, like every day that my boyfriend went to open up Ashtanga, because we opened up, we closed down for 2 weeks. And then he was like, nope, we're opening.
Yeah.
Every day he said to me, here's money in the account if I get arrested to come. Like every day I had to wait for that to see if he was going to get arrested. But every day he made that choice to look the barrel of the pew pew in the face and say, I'm not going to play this game. And so we saw that. We saw that with these things. We saw that with these things. And I'm not saying like for me, and maybe for you a little bit, Catherine, too, because you live in a smaller area, but like for me in Atlanta, I'm not in New York City. I'm not in California. So it was easier for me to not wear this than maybe somebody in California. So obviously circumstances were different. But it definitely, I mean, we see this on YouTube as well. These big spiritual teachers on YouTube that talk a big talk about doing their work. But yet the minute something isn't right, they run.
Yeah.
And they blame you and they project it onto you. But you and I have always done our work. We always admit when we're wrong. We always go back and course correct. So it's you just never know, right? Because people can put on a good performance. They can, when life is great and normal and everyone's comfortable and there's no threat, anybody can look enlightened.
I think it's such an important point. I mean, I work obviously a lot with holistic health, and you often get when someone's really struggling with one of themselves or their loved ones really struggling with a health issue, and they might know a lot, but that when someone really sort of works with them, they realize they haven't been applying a lot of that knowledge.
Yes.
But we all do that. It is human nature. So you have a very solid morning practice. I have a very solid morning practice. My evening routine can be a little bit hit and miss, to be honest. But when the things start going wrong, I know what to do and I kick myself up the backside and start doing it, and I don't blame someone else for it. Having said that, we are in a time, and we always say there's never been a time like this. I think there's been loads of different times like this. Yeah. It's just the fact that we're more, we always think we're so special and we've got these there's different challenges. Like I always say as a mum, it would be far more challenging to me if my children were being sent off to fight in the trenches.
Yeah.
I don't think they want me anymore. I think I'm too old. But in all seriousness, there's always challenges, and everyone watching this will be having their own challenges that can seem completely overwhelming, and you can obviously sit there and think, well, it's all right for you because you're not going through that. And there's a point to that. But I think one of the things you and I have spoken a lot about is this sort of link between unity consciousness and community. And of course, everything they're trying to do with the fear side of things is divide and conquer, black and white thinking. We've spoken about this so many times. And when you look at community, in terms of, I sort of like to think, unity is the consciousness of oneness, and community is the embodied version of unity. And we express that through shared space, responsibility, and connection. And something you and I have been really passionate about over the last few years is trying to, with our channels and now with some new things that we're both doing, to actually hold that space of community for people and for ourselves, because we're having a lot thrown at us. We are at this crucial stage where, even if you take the whole AI and transhuman agenda, it's pretty damn scary for a lot of people. And now at times like this, personally, I feel this is when we need to have those strong communities, and those communities aren't about all being the same. They're not about all agreeing with each other. They're being a safe space. I hate that, but you know what I mean, for people to actually know when push comes to the shove, supporting each other is more important than some differences in belief systems.
And as you're saying that, I'm thinking of the exact, like, we're seeing a lot of, from, we'll say, in the grander scheme, especially here in the United States. You'll have to let me know how it is in the UK, where we have these like all-inclusive spaces, like an all-inclusive yoga studio or an all-inclusive, but they're not. They're all-inclusive unless you're like a white man who's straight or if you're a Republican, you know? And then I look at like our Shala AYA that hasn't changed at all. Like we never require, obviously, duh, we never required this because we don't even have this. We never, actually, we don't allow people to wear these because you need to be able to breathe. That's a liability for us. But with that being said, when we open up the Shala, we don't talk about any of that, and all are welcome. Like we don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, or if you have this or not, or if you know, whatever your sexual orientation is or your race. You walk into that Shala and it's literally all inclusive, but we don't have to put that on our website because we literally were practicing yoga. And so you walk in there and it's an eclectic group of people that might be having slightly different opinions, but the objection, what their motivation is for coming in is the same. And that's, you know, and that's the thing too, like, you know, with the Cassiopeans, as I read earlier this week, they were talking about soul smashing, and selling your soul is literally to believe a lie. Like that is selling your soul, to self-identify with a lie. So, you know, we'd see that obviously with the people on the left, the far left, that they believe this lie, but we also see that in the truther community too, where people are believing lies, so they're selling their souls. And I think for me, when I first started this YouTube world, I kind of got swept away in some of these like conspiracies, but then I started to, there was like this niggling inside of me that was like, but this is really conflicting with the spiritual study I've been doing for 19 years. And that spiritual Vedic text study makes way more sense because it's about your soul, and that this life is temporary, and that there are purposes and choices to be made, but that man's suffering comes from attaching, like almost like what the Cassiopeans are saying, like soul smashing, identifying with the illusion versus actually observing the illusion and focusing on the soul. And that's when I started to pull myself out of that fog. And you and I had started filming together, and we're kind of like saying things to each other, like testing, like, is this weird to you? Like, this is kind of weird. You know, and so I think, and for me, as someone who had that 19, well, at that point, what was it, 19 years, what it was like 14 years when I started, I had all these years of intense practice. I'd already stood up against the government basically. And then to be able to then stand up against even the truther community to say, this isn't right. And to get the backlash that we got, I mean, the truther community tried to cancel us too, just like the normies, you know? But to be able to rest in that, and my boyfriend actually talks about that a lot, like when there's fear and we're looking at community and unity, and we're all, even if we all have different opinions, if you are somebody who has a sense of self outside of your job, outside of you, like even if you took yoga away from me right now and I could never practice again, I've learned that sense of self, that I can rest in myself even when things are uncomfortable or I'm emotional. There's still that sense of presence there, where I can go back to the simplest thing, which is take an inhale, take an exhale, take an inhale, take an exhale. And that brings me back to that center of not being swept away with the fear. You know, and I see that a lot, even with the truther community, that they've created such a fear around what's happening that people cling to these false sense of hope, and then they get upset when somebody says maybe this isn't right. But if you actually face the fear, if you actually turn around and look at it and ask yourself why you're so afraid, and why are you handing your power, where you can come back into that consciousness within yourself, and therefore share space with people who might have simply different opinions, but each body's opinions isn't affecting the other person because they're still in their own sense of identity, and understanding that opinions aren't, they're subjective and they're bound. Thank God opinions change. Listen, thank God. I mean, if I was still dating the type of men that I dated in my 20s, I would not be in a healthy relationship right now. So thank God.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think what you were saying there about, oh, I've lost my train of thought now, but in terms of when people get annoyed when it's being pointed out that we've been fooled, and every single one of us, I would guarantee, watching this has been in that place, and Bryce and I have been there many times as well. You know, the excitement, you cling to things that are, if you're having a difficult time being heard or understood in your local environment, with friends and family, then having these online environments and even just connecting with people where you can have these way out wacky discussions, which you can't necessarily have with your best friends back here, is really important. And it's not that we don't need to all go through these stages, and exploring all these things is really important, but it comes back to the good old Wayne Dyer, if you squeeze an orange, only orange juice comes out, is when someone's saying, well, I don't think the financial revaluation is going to come. I don't think that we're all sitting there watching a movie. I don't think that all the baddies have been arrested. If that brings out a really strong reaction in with you, then you don't really believe that's true anyway.
Yeah.
That is what it's showing. And you're frustrated with the person that's holding that mirror up. But if you really believe that was true, you'd just say, bless them, bless them, they haven't got my belief. Like people who have a really strong spiritual or religious belief or belief in anything, when that's really embedded, as you said, within you, then you've got empathy for people that don't have that belief, that their lives might be difficult because they haven't got that strong sense of belief. You don't project and shame them.
Well, and it also goes back to, yeah, the projection too, because as we've gone, and this is going to sound mean coming from me, but it's just the truth. When people started making up rumors of you and me, Catherine, have had so many rumors made up about us, so many conspiracies created about us. I mean, it's crazy. The
I'm not that
shenanigans.
interesting.
I know, I'm so boring. Like the
Yeah.
300 agency guy who has to watch me now is probably bored out of his mind. He's probably like, this chick doesn't go anywhere. She teaches yoga, she goes to the grocery store, she walks her dog, and then she goes home. Like
Yeah.
she does nothing interesting. Her and her partner are in bed by like 5 p.m. watching TV. Like it's
Yeah.
like there's nothing, so my life is way more fascinating compared. I mean, tell me more, because the stories that have been made up about me are way more fascinating than the reality of my life. But I think, the one thing that really pissed me off the most was when people created a conspiracy that I was born a male, which I was born a female, guys. I am a literal woman. Like and you can see my workout videos. I think if you look at my workout videos, you can definitely tell that I was born a female. And when that started, it was started by the Enough is Enough channel. And my boyfriend went, because I think that's the cruelest thing you can do to a person, is to take a female and to start a rumor that they are not, that their beauty or whatever isn't real, right? That's the cruelest. That's why I can't stand talking about the trans agenda with
Yeah.
transgenders, because I find it, and even we've even said with Brigitte Macron, we've even said that issue isn't even like the scandalous part of it. Like
Nothing to do with the fact of whether
I don't
she
care. I
decided
don't
to change her sex. Nothing to do with that at all.
nothing.
None of us have got a problem with that at all.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But beyond that, so many people are like pointing to different celebrities and saying they're actually, but
Mm.
you don't know that, so you're just being cruel. At this
Yeah.
point, you're just being cruel and evil, actually. And my boyfriend went back when this was happening, and he looked at all these accounts on Telegram of these people doing it, and he was like, these are all women who are massively overweight,
Mm.
who are very lonely. And so what they're doing is they're projecting their own insecurities onto a woman that they perceive as being better than them because of whatever reason. And it just really, when he said that, it opened my eyes, because I was like, oh, these are people who are so effing wounded themselves, and their egos are so out of control that they're not even willing to look at their own hurts. They're not even willing to go back and be like, you know what? I'm insecure with my body. I'm insecure because I don't have a man. And this woman I see on YouTube who is thin and has a man, I'm jealous of that. So therefore, I'm going to make up a cruel lie to try to destroy this person that I don't even know. And I think if people actually sat back and looked at themselves we would have already ascended or whatever people, if we actually stop putting the blame and reacting out of a place of fear, because that's where that's coming from, fear of not being accepted, fear of not being good enough. But if we actually face that fear, then I don't think we would be in the mess that we're in. And also, Catherine, another thing too, I find is that you and I have both have been very open about the fact that absolutely back in the competition in November, we have to be careful with words. I absolutely voted for Mr. T. Absolutely. And I think you would have done the same too, right, Catherine, if you were
Yeah.
here. But I've made it very clear I take everything with a grain of salt.
Mm.
I know he's not perfect. He's not, he's doing an incredible job of shining a flashlight on things that we need to see, but I'm not relying on him to save me because that's not his job.
And when also
My job.
you're not thinking that there'll be things that he's not, that are wrong, that he's not choosing to shine a flashlight on. You know, this,
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point. I think the thing is, it's I know we've spoken about her before, but I'm gonna bring Candace Owens in as an example. So many people who haven't listened to Candace Owens and have just heard what people say about her, say she's absolutely terrible, she's absolutely awful, she's this or that. And then when people listen to her, the way she presents her facts, it's not gossip. So if you listen to the Bridget McCrone one or the Harvey Weinstein one or any of the series that she does, the Blake Lively and whoever her partner is, I don't even know. It's not done from a way of malice gossip. It's a way of showing, of holding up and making people accountable when they've deliberately lied and done something completely wrong. So take the Harvey Weinstein series she's doing at the moment. She's saying, I do not agree with Harvey's morals. You know, I don't agree with a lot of things he said, but just because you don't agree with someone's life choices doesn't mean they should be wrongly accused and put in jail for the rest of their life. You know, if you're going to take someone's personality and jail them for that, then God help everyone, because you know, no,
I'll be in jail.
we'd all be in jail. So I think this is the thing, is when people do it, it's the nuances about what is the intent behind it. So if someone like the Bridget McCrone, and this ties into the fear and how what the media is telling us and what it isn't, it's about the deception. And I think it was RFK said it, that never has there been a time in history where the people who are censoring things and lying are doing it for your own good.
Absolutely.
And again, take RFK. Are there things he's done in the past? He has helped my family out massively with children's health defence on a personal level for years. It's been a credible source of information. Am I surprised, concerned? Don't know a lot, but from what I've seen, he is or isn't doing at the moment. I'm definitely keeping my eyes open for it. But again, it's the intent behind stuff. And we have to have some of these agendas. You know, when you look at the fear and how it's affecting us and how it's making us doubt our intuition and keeping us in a state of disempowerment. I mean, I would say, for want of a better word, the truth-seeking community, the type of people that you and I are you know, part of, a lot of the time they're kept in a from really shining their own light in the world and going out and making the change and being happy and living fulfilled lives, because the alternative media are keeping them in such a disempowered and fear state. So there's lots of things going on in the world that we can't personally influence. So us being in a fear state about it and constantly being asked to focus on it, look, you know, we all know that energy flows where attention goes. And why are these people talking about all that without balancing it out about what you can do to live, being a shining light wherever you go, and actually be grateful for this experience that we've got here?
It's so funny, and I don't mean to tune our own horns, Catherine, but as you're saying that, I'm thinking, I'm actually proud of you and me, because when we started to figure out something wasn't right, we did
Mm.
course correct and started to try to give solutions. We created shadow work challenges, try to give support to people, to try to be the solution instead of feeding into the problem. Now, with that being said, there's also the opposite end of toxic positivity. We do need
Yeah.
to know when there's things like, I think we've gotten very, and I think you and I know, like, there's a time and a place to look at the reality of a situation, but then once you
Completely.
see the reality, you take in what you need. It's like the I'll say the U country just for lack, I don't want to like mess up the algorithms, but
The blue
you
and
know,
yellow flag.
blue and yellow flag, the little dude that's shorter than Tom Cruise that, was a comedian. As an American, am I upset that we've been sending our money when Americans are struggling? Absolutely. I'm sure you are as an English person too, because we're
Mm.
in the same boat. So we did what we could to put in a person that was going to stop that, and he has. Now, with that being said, that's where the equanimity comes in. And that's part of the yoga too. You take action towards something, but you also have to understand that you can't control things.
Mm.
You have to be equanimous as well. You do all you can to correct a situation, to do what you can do, but then you also have to let go and surrender at some point. And
Yeah.
so it comes, and I think again, it's just this whole fear sells, fear sells, fear sells. So even in like, and it's so funny because it's the truth of the world, but I'm like, I want the truth, regardless of whether it's what I want to hear or not. I
Well,
want the
that's the only way you can make decisions, for yourself and your loved ones. So,
I've listened.
so well, I was just going to say, just to sort of build on what you've just said then, Bryce, a practical example for me is I have been researching jibby jabs for years. Why? Because I've got two children where I, as their parent, had to make a decision on this. And any parents out there, whether you're a parent of a human or an animal, it's hard. You do the
Yeah,
best you can with the information that you've got, and hindsight's 2020. But so I've been researching that for ages. So for me, researching it, because I'm very lucky, I'm in a country where there are no compulsory ones.
yeah,
So therefore, it I can research that and it's not doesn't put me in a fear state at all. Now in 2020, it was slightly differently because I could see loads of family members going along and doing what they were told. And I did go into a fear state about that because I couldn't stop them and they were all adults and they had to make their own decisions. But I had very strong opinions about some of the harmful side effects of those. And unfortunately, some of those have proved to be right, which I would love nothing better than to have been wrong about that.
yeah.
But when you're looking into these events, absolutely, do you need to know what's going on? I spend a lot of time looking into the geoengineering side of things because I deal with a lot of natural health issues. And if we don't know what's being sprayed in our air, which is getting into every bit of food we eat, every bit of water, how can we possibly know what solutions to do? But I'm not in a fear state about it because my education is allowing me to look for solutions and share those. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And you have to there's a push pull, right? Like
Mm,
we've talked about this before. Both you and I have rescues.
mm.
Actually, Robbie is coming up on his gotcha date, his 8 years when he came home to America. And in order for these dogs, first of all, for Robbie in India, the only countries that we can that get the
Canada.
dogs from India are
Yeah,
America or Canada because they don't require a quarantine.
yeah,
Some countries in Europe, you have to put them, or in Australia, in quarantine for 6 months, and that changes the dog. And we
yeah,
just, we have to make very, very strategic decisions when we rescue these dogs as to where they're going to go. Usually, we just send them to America and Canada because they can go immediately home to their forever home. Well, with that being said, too, when Robbie and all the other 6 other dogs I've brought back, who have been adopted out, in order for them to leave India, they have to have a passport,
yeah.
like we all do, which is hysterical to see. They get little pictures taken. You hold the puppies up, they get their little picture taken in the passport. It's hysterical. It's adorable. But what does the passport have in it? It has their bippity boppity boo schedules.
Mm,
So there are some bippity boppity boos, jabberdoos, that we have to give the dogs in
mm-hmm,
order to get them out of India.
mm-hmm.
We have to be strategic now. There is a veterinarian we work with in Gokulam. I won't say his name, in the neighborhood in Mysore, who will
Mm.
lie if a dog has not gotten one of the bippity boppity boo bops, if it's too young to get a bippity boppity boo bop, and he'll go ahead and just sign off on it just because we're leaving. The dog's got a plane ticket. We got to get because he knows the dog needs to get to a home. But with that being said, I mean, Robbie's even chipped. He had to be chipped. All the dogs have to get chips put in them. Funny thing is, Robbie's still chipped with the girl he flew with, our friend in Birmingham. So if someone were to scan him, he'd be sent to Birmingham, Alabama. But it's our friend, so she just sent him right back. But so there comes this, like, when you're so dogmatic, you end up doing harm, because what's worse, we leave a dog in a situation where it's going to not have a long life, where it could be killed or euthanized, or we take the gamble and give it a couple of jibbity jabs in order to get it into a family, into a loving home, where then we can correct nutrition. We can be exercise the dog. We can take more once they're in the country. Listen, India won't let them come back. Once they leave, that's it. They're
Yeah.
gone. So they're here. He's an American. He emigrated legally here.
He's an American citizen. I think that's
Yeah.
such an important point you're raising, because I'm exactly the same as mine. Quite a few of mine have come for board and they've all had to do that. And luckily, then I can then do whatever I can to course correct. But they wouldn't be alive if they'd been left where they were. There's no way they'd be alive.
Neither would Robert.
So I think it's really fantastic when people look at that and apply it to your own course. So you have to make the best decisions that are right for you and your family. And that will be different for all of us. And we saw this during the pandemic, that, you know, everyone's circumstances are different and we need to be empathetic to that. And you as an individual, we know when we're deep down, we know that's what triggers us, when we're making an excuse and blaming someone else, or when really, like the example you said, we're really comfortable that that's the best of a, you know, the best decision we can make in the circumstance. And that's what life's about. You know, life isn't perfect. It's not about perfect situations. It's about making the best decisions you can. And one of those, going back to the thing about how we're in fear of control and how you can opt out, this is where we each have to recognize when it's getting too overwhelming for us. And I'm sure we'll all go through stages like that. You know, I wasn't very well this weekend, and when you're not feeling well, everything seems tougher. Everything seems a bit more overwhelming. And I think you've just got to be honest with yourself and have a community of people around you, whether it's locally, which would be the ideal situation, or if not online, where you know those people have actually got your back and you're going to get the right sort of information fed into you. Because the biggest thing that's controlling your fear is not what's happening in the physical world, is how you're viewing it here. And this is what we've got to control, and get that good information fed into you.
You have nothing to fear but fear itself. I can't remember which politician in America said that. Excuse me. I'm blanking on who said that, but you have nothing to fear but fear itself. And I think that's that mental restriction, and yeah, and I think too, when you start going easier on yourself, I think you start to also go easier on other people.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially in the times that we're in right now, like we text some concerning things back and forth about Mr. T that we're a little bit like
Mm.
aware of. But then also it's like, well, he's doing the best he can. You know, there's certain things that we have to also forgive in other people's too in situations. And I think too, you know, when we do start having more of that equanimous approach to things, we're able to go through these times of turmoil with more grace and more ease. You know, and that's that it becomes, instead of becoming an overwhelming challenge, it just seems like we can't survive. Well, here's the thing, none of us are going to survive it. Plot twist, no one gets out of this world alive.
Exactly.
None
And
of us get out of here alive.
even if people, you know, that we're using obvious examples that everyone can resonate. Coco's come to join us. Don't knock my computer over, Coco. Um, like, say if you're watching this and you don't think Mr. T is doing the best job, but still, does it matter to you? Because, you know, you've either got, if whatever country you're in, I mean, in the UK, we were faced with a position where no one wanted to vote for any of the candidates.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no point crying over spilt milk, as my mum used to say. You just got to get on with it. You either decide not to vote, or you decide to vote for the lesser of two evils and keep raising the awareness and putting the pressure on, you know, and there's hundreds of solutions in between.
Yeah.
But don't keep focusing on so many, whether it's news, whether it's media, whether it's mainstream, whether it's alternative, the balance of talking about the problems is way out of kilt to talking about the solutions. And no wonder many of us are just thinking, what's the point? It's overwhelmed. What do I do? How do I make decisions? Look, we've been told for the last 5 years, people on, you know, have been listening to the same people that we all have, get your money out of the bank. The banks are going to collapse. This is going to happen. We've been told that so many times, and it hasn't yet. Now, just because it hasn't yet doesn't mean it's not going to. But how long are you going to live in fear of that? How long are you going to let that really overwhelm you? Look, life's a gamble. Make a decision, get on with it. If you've got new information, you can go back and change it.
Yeah.
But we don't know. A lot of these things we don't know, and people are telling you they know, but they don't know. They really don't know.
Yeah, we know these people offline, guys. They don't know. And the same thing, like people are waiting for some guy in a mask to come save them. And it's been 5 years now, and you're just you're giving your power away, waiting for something to change, some EBT to come out, some 10 days of darkness, and you've paused your whole existence on this lie. And that's selling your soul. So take your soul back. Life is never going to be perfect. I think, Catherine, people believe that we're walking into some utopia where everything is going to be perfect. That's not the point of third density, you guys.
No.
That's not the point. We're going to have friction. Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just, it is what it is. And when you have I like you, when you have a community of people who will support you through the ups and the downs, through the trials and tribulations of your own life, when you're able to sit back. That's what I appreciate so much about one of my really good friends up in Canada. He always finds the humor in things. And it really taught me to not take things so seriously.
Mm.
Like, don't take life so seriously. It's kind of funny. So, I mean, have you seen some of these politicians? They're kind of funny looking.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. But one thing Mary Ella Cruz said, or in her book, I read this one at the end, and that I just really love the way she said this, was she says, I am the cause. I am not the effect. I
Mm.
am not the effect of two people doing the hokey pokey. I'm not the effect of other people's behavior towards me or other people's expectations. That's what your spiritual practice. Yes, we all are victims of something, but do you want to stay in that oppressed? Or can you say, actually, I'm the cause? I'm the cause of my life. I created this Shakti. This is an experience for my soul. I'm not going to give my power away to somebody else. I'm going to take that power back, and I'm going to be at peace with myself. Because again, at the end of the day, no one gets out of this world alive. This is a temporary ride for us. And so are we going to sit around in our misery and blame everybody else for our situations? Or are we going to hold on loosely to our opinions, take everything with a grain of salt, realize no one's coming to save you? And that is actually the biggest blessing in the whole world, is that no one's coming to save you, because if someone saves you, you're in debt to that person. They
And
own you.
there's a reason why we grow up and we're not children anymore.
Right.
We're not meant to be. If you've got a child, if you're a child, you're reliant on adults around you to keep you safe, to feed you, to teach you how to survive on your own. But I just love that. And I think the whole point about this is that there is a lot of support out there, and sometimes you can take the news and I'm not talking about mainstream news, don't ever take the mainstream news, but whatever channels you are drawn to at that particular time, and it won't affect you negatively, in which case great, take it on, do with what you want with it. But when you feel that it's too much for you, then know that that's fine, just to step away and go and do some fun, get back to your good daily habits, reach out to someone that can help you through that, because everyone will feel like that. Everyone will have those times of overwhelm. But a lot of the time, a lot of what we've talked about hasn't come true yet. And if it is, we don't know whether it's going to be 1 year, 10 years, 5 years, we just don't know. And everyone's got an opinion, and we all know what opinions are. And so, just take, is this serving me? Is it serving me being in this place? And I think that sort of leads on, Bryce, to, I'd like you to just remind everyone about the community that you and Paula have set up, and then I'll tell them about my new community, because we've got some options for you. There's plenty of others out there for you, but I would say have some sort of support network for yourself.
Yeah, so we have the Esoteric Academy. Paul and I have set it up. It's a mystery school. We do lots of exercises. You guys know that that's my thing, is exercise is the foundation. So I do exercise videos, and I take actually modern exercise and I implement the lessons I've learned in traditional yoga. So I'm having you look at your hips, your shoulders, the lines of energy through the body, the oxygen, like in different ways, so that you can kind of get in your body and really appreciate your body and being here. We also have courses where we go through the Bhagavad Gita, which the Bhagavad Gita is mirroring what we're going through right now. We are Arjuna on that battlefield. And so it gives those lessons of taking action lessons, all sorts of other courses. So we've got like tons of them up. We're going to also be starting a private course on the Law of One and the Cassiopeians, where I'm going to implement what we learned from that with yoga. So it gives it a different perspective on this template. And we've also got an incredible group of people. We have a community page. We do live classes, live chats, and kind of like the Signal group that we have, Catherine.
Mm.
We're not on the community page that much because we want the students to have that sat song together, that to be able to network with each other. The Cassiopeians always promote us talking and networking. And the thing too, with the Cassiopeians, one thing we do on our platform, and probably the same with yours, is we also take a lot of the wishful thinking away,
Yeah.
and the magical thinking away. Like, I was just reading one of the Cassiopeian blogs from a while ago to prepare for a new show, and this girl had heard something outside of her window, and she was asking what spaceship was it, and they go, it was thunder.
Yes.
It was
I
thunder.
love
Like,
it. Yeah.
put it back down. Like, yeah, there's woo-woo stuff out there, but most of the time it's just very simple. It's a very, like, one lady asked the Cassiopeians, like, she was having all these experiences in her body and was she being attacked and blah blah blah, and they go, it's menopause.
Yes, I was just about to say, I bet you were going to say it's menopause. It's hysterical.
So we take that wishful thinking and that magical thinking out of it, even though you are magic. But we need to come back to reality and be in this body and enjoy being a human. And I know with you, Catherine, a lot of your health stuff too, it is kind of just very simple sometimes.
It's always a lot simpler, and most of the time people know it, but we all need someone to help us keep us accountable. So I have literally just today launched my Instagram community. And I'm really excited about this, price, because it's really low value. It's $4.99 a month, low value in terms of money that you pay, high value in terms of what you're going to get, because I want it to be accessible to all. So both Bryce's and ours sort of offerings really complement each other.
Yeah.
They're different. For different people, we're drawn to different ones. But what I'm doing in here is really honest tips, daily tips. We've just launched some today. You're going to be able to ask what content you want, what you want more information of, interact directly, get my thoughts, my real thoughts on things that I can't normally put on the real page and things. So it's going to be a really
uncensored,
uncensored, interactive, but also very, very practical things that you can do for free. Help keep you accountable, just remind you of how important these things are, but also answer your specific questions, because everyone's got a different lifestyle, different challenges, different budgets, different pressures on them. So, whereas there's some common themes that we'd all benefit from, there is also going to be individual advice. So if anyone's on Instagram, please come across and join my community, because you get to choose what content I create, because I'm creating it for you.
I love that. And one thing I want to point out too, we have both set our platforms at really reasonable prices. Now, if you are of the opinion that what we're doing should be always given for free, that is service to self. That's the dark polarity. That's also vampirism, and that's enslavement. So in the light side, it's a community, right? We're doing energy exchange. We're doing energy exchange. And so money is energy. And so for us to give you the information that we've received, we take from you, and it's a cycle of energy, right? And that's an energy exchange. But I think one thing that's so beautiful, Catherine, about technology, because any tool can be used for good or bad, right? Is that, like, if I were to do what I do here in Atlanta, it would be thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
You probably do the same thing if it was one-on-one. But because it's the internet and it's global, we can bring the price really low, so that more people can be a part of it. So it offsets. So we're all helping each other.
Yeah, completely. And I think it is fantastic. And also you learn from each other. So there's other people in both our communities that will ask for certain things, and you'll think, it might not be something you've thought about, but it's going to be really useful for you. So this is what I love about the communities, as we all learn from each other. And I'm so excited, because I want to spend my time creating and answering the questions that people have got, not the questions that I think they might have. And so for me, it's really, really lovely, because it's a chance to really give focused advice like yours is, but also resources that people can share with others. Both of us offer discounts as well. So, you get discounts off any of the paid courses, the consults and things like that. So there's so many benefits. And also, if you do like our ramblings and you like being part of it, it's a really lovely way to support us outside, because the YouTube is absolutely rubbish when you're talking about subjects they don't want you to talk about. So just putting it out there for people as an option. There's loads of other options there, but we'd love it if you could support us, because it would mean the world to us.
Support us so we can support you.
Absolutely.
Lovely.
So yeah. I think, any final words in terms of, if someone's feeling, Bryce, that look, this is, how can I opt out? I want to opt out more, but I don't know where to start with escaping this sort of fear machine that we're all being chugged into. Any final words of wisdom from you?
I would say everything happens in the now. That's a big yoga thing. Like, the past has already happened and tomorrow never comes. And so even if you can take if you're addicted to the YouTube, if you're addicted to it and you know it's a problem, addiction is a problem for a reason. You feel that need to be inundated. Take 5 minutes at a time. Turn it off. Just sit down, focus on the breath for 5 minutes with no interruption, just focusing on the inhale and the exhale. Go for a walk. Just take it one day at a time. I've laughed before because Catherine and I are both vegetarians, but my mother used to say, how do we eat that elephant? One bite at a time. Right. And don't get, as we said in the beginning, you said like, it's like that was whirlwind. Like, it's messy. The spirituality is messy, and you do fall back into old habits sometimes, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just laugh and be like, oh my God, I totally got triggered again. I thought I had worked on that. Let's recenter again. What Kathy O says, journaling is really important too. And then ask yourself and investigate, be an investigator. Why am I so afraid? Why am I so afraid that if Mr. T, let's say you believe Mr. T is actually JFK Jr. in a mask. Why are you afraid to hear that might not be the truth? Why? Investigate the why. You might learn some really interesting things about yourself. And once you can face that, you can release everything that's scaring you, everything that's holding you back, and you can start to take your life back and take your power back.
I love it. And my final word of advice is that, look, sometimes we're too close to the problem. And so ask for advice from someone you trust, because when you're in it, you can't see it yourself. And it's much easier for someone that's genuinely got your best interest at heart to sometimes see, oh, this could be a quick thing that could shift you really quickly. And then we can help build on that. And bear in mind, if someone gives advice, you don't have to take it. Yeah. You've still got a choice. But if you're stuck, don't feel that you've got to do all this on your own, because there's a reason why every single one of us watching this has got different skills. Every single one of us will see different bits of the jigsaw puzzle, and together we can all help put that picture together. So don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Thank you so much. For those of people that are new, I didn't introduce the coffee chat. Bryce from Esoteric Atlanta, her links will be below. Next week we'll be back on Bryce's channel. Come join us. And as always, please, if this resonates with you, please hit the like button. Please, if you're not subscribed, and we love to hear your comments below.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.